So if Matt has me in the start hold, I don't want any space. I don't worry about specific grips. I just try and connect my hands whatever feels comfortable, and I don't want any space at all. So I'm trying to eliminate any space on the back at all. Yeah. Things like grimacing. When he is compressing me, right? When he's doing that bridge, if I start doing this with my face, is this making it better or worse for me? It's making it worse. I want to relax everything. I can't change this position, and I sure as hell, this is like the worst time usually to bridge is when he really bridges me. When he goes for that bridge and he compresses me, I want to go with that. And my grip is, it's there, but it's not, I'm not gripping super tight because I haven't got that much air. I'm getting squeezed. And then I'll feel him at some point in this, if I just go with this, he will relax at some point. Even if he's bigger, strong, whatever, he'll relax. And when I feel him relax, that's when I'm gonna go. And I put him back up in the air, right? And then if we're doing the drill, I'm just gonna kind of just there, whatever. But I've done the job, I've got him off, and then he'll stick me back under. So the grip is it's just enough. I never ever open the grip. And by the way, I saw some of you were really quite charitable. If you manage to get their grip to break at any point, you never give it back to them, even in the drill. Don't give it back to them. Because you've kind of earned that right, and they need to learn what it feels like every time this happens. And normally with this, in terms of breath work, of course he can finish me, but the crueler thing really for Matt to do is to just underhook this arm, bring both his arms together, go underneath. Yeah, and now just do the bridge on me. And now I've got nothing to I can't bridge him back. So here I would actually take all those knees. Let me just show you a second. I'm just showing you, I'm not saying it's wrong, but what I will do is just try and compress him as much as possible. So if I get under, if he lets that grip break, and so things you can start doing with this, as he grips, right? One of the things I can do with this is just really fill my lungs up, and it makes his grip, if you get good at this, it actually makes it hard for him to hold, right? And then I get underneath, and now we're going back to the bridge. And now he has no route out back there. It's kind of pretty done, usually that position in terms of energy. If the guy just doesn't tap, but you just squeeze him there and you just relax in that position. But if you don't have the arms, the importance of the grips is you've got no bridge. You've got no way back. There's not much you can do there apart from you need him to mess up there, really. Anything else on that at all? Any questions, observations, anything about it?
I was just going to say before that, do you know if someone's like preemptively doing their counter bridge on top?
Yeah.
So they almost go slightly flat. So it makes your connection hands almost flat to your body.
Yeah.
I think you were half sort of explaining it there, where there is a gap where they'll relax it ever so slightly, so you can recover it a bit there. But it feels like there was a pathway.
Do you want to show it with me? Do you want to show it with me?
So, he's almost flat to me here.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking here, so it's not too bad. Previously, he was doing really well, but I'm still managing to breathe into my lower body.
Yeah.
But I can feel like I can sit up.
Yeah.
So, is there an escape there? Would I correct?
Yeah.
Configuration of my legs.
Yeah.
Around, just I didn't want to do this for obvious reasons, but.
Yeah, I mean, people would do that. I just find it doesn't work on anybody who's really good, and they push their hip into you.
Yeah.
So the thing to realise with this position is, it really starts to look at what is a quality sit out, what is a quality sprawl, because you watch people a lot of MMA guys are very good at sprawling. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys, I see myself very much as a jiu-jitsu guy. Sometimes you look at the sit-ups and the sprawls. You watch wrestlers do them, and they're a hell of a lot better. And it's just basic things like the head staying up and the heel staying back, and just actually playing with the tension. It doesn't have to be a huge kind of. I don't have to overemphasise. Chris. I don't have to sometimes it's good to overemphasise when you're coaching it. I'm not really saying that apart from when he really goes for it, I would ever go all the way. I would ever really sit all the way back. It's when he goes to go for it that I do that. that I'm throwing this back.
It's like
but
a pulse.
Yeah, it's literally, I feel him go to go, and I'm smashing my hip forward. So a lot of the time, what stops them from, even when I throw my head back, what stops them from coming up is like I'm leading with my hip, like we just did on the mount bottom, or on the bridge on the bottom. My hip leads. So I don't want to, it's not like a hip escape. If I kind of hip escape, and my hip is retracted, he could start pushing my head and sitting up. This is what you were talking about, right? But if I push my hip and do it now, do it again. So it's just pushing your hip forward, it's leading with your hip. And if you lead with your hip, they shouldn't be able to sit up on you. It just breaks the grip and they end up stuck. It's a good question. So if that's happening, it's because people are retracting the hip. And I think, a lot of the time, I think what I'm starting to realise what Casey said is that leading with when you sprawl, your hips don't really go back on a sprawl. The hips are what lead. And that's kind of the essence of your spine is flexing. So your hip is coming forward, your spine is flexing, and we're applying this top, we're applying it bottom. We're looking at it as just a sort of a general. If I'm not in a ball, I'm thinking about that sprawl even when I'm on the bottom. The head and heels. Anytime I'm not bridged now in jiu-jitsu, as my feet begin to leave them out, I'm thinking all the time about this shape and this shape. So the two extremes. I'm in a ball or I'm in a sprawl. Which I think was your seminar, basically, looking back all those years ago. Different position, but I just feel like it's like you start understanding, you start seeing it's actually everywhere. Anything else on that position at all?
Just when you're on the bottom plane, obviously learning how to put up with it and breathe and all that stuff's a key part of it, but it feels like you're up against it time-wise. The longer you're on the bottom, the more tired you're getting. I mean, where's the trade-off? Do you literally wait for the perfect opportunity, or do you just go for it because you're just in a terrible position?
You want to be on top, right? But you can't always be, and so then it's about timing. And you then just got to look for opportunities, and that just comes with experience, and I don't think there's any real answer to that. But what I'd say to you is, the longer you can stay calm, and you can be thinking about that kind of what it feels like to be in scaffold, a lot of the time we take grips and we grip too tight, and you look at the energy that we're beating ourselves a lot of the time by just gripping the gi too hard, or holding on too tight, or just being too tense. And it's like, what am I actually achieving here? Unless this is helping me transition or genuinely progress the position, I may as well just relax, take some more air in, and I've got longer time to figure out, the egg timer that's turning is suddenly going a lot slower on me.
When you're on the top, and you're doing the pressure, where is the sweet spot? How up or low on side or in the center, where you want to be and have the pressure, so you have optimal pressure and balance. Some people have broadest chest. Of course, it depends, but
you always. But I think irrespective of the chest, you always basically when you're breathing, you're always, whether you're top or bottom, you're trying to get as much air as low down as possible, and you're trying to get out of this anxiety. It's more of a kind of a mental. I don't think mechanically it truly matters, but by making people focus on filling up as much as possible, it makes them breathe a lot longer. And so by breathing a lot longer, they stay calmer, the heart rate stays lower, etc. But in terms of the actual position, if I'm conscious, if I want to put pressure on, there's different things that you can do, right? The ultimate to me is to either be as high as you can get on, like up here, right? So you want to be almost like as high as you can get, right? That's the ultimate with this arm, with a grip breaker. So I tend to find this, the higher I get, the more the grip breaks anyway. But to begin with, because people will get bridge and roll, try to do this, I find for most of you to learn this position to begin with, just getting here, bringing this leg up, so I'm retracting this leg up, and turning the corner and just get into this compression, and then I just fill up to break his grip. So try and grip your hands together, Chris. So I can just breathe this out. And now I'm just staying here until basically he dies, or he gives me usually a wrist lock or something, but I'll sit here for as long as I can. I'll just sit there.
So it's high as possible?
As high as possible, or bridge them.
Yeah, but obviously it's a bit on the side. It's not in the middle.
Yeah.
Because then you lose the balance.
There's sometimes people will just get their hip and their hip bone will end up on a bit of your rib and it will just be horrific.
Yeah.
And I'm not that masterful at it. I just know that if you keep your body off the mat and you get either to that bridging position or you get very high up on them, particularly when they can't connect their hands, it's generally over for most people. They're not going to survive for long in there unless they really relax and work their way out. A lot of people panic themselves into a tap or an easy submission once you get to it. And that for me is the essence of the game. I'm not that bothered about this position. I'm not saying this position is going to go out and win you loads of competitions, but what it is it's a tremendous model for you to kind of coach and learn how to play the game of jiu-jitsu and to accept that you're not, particularly for good athletes, you're not always going to be winning. And the way you'll improve longer term is just to try and slow it all down and just play with these little positions and improve your sprawl, improve your sit out. You've got all the major things going on really in the game. Even when you're on top, when you're on bottom, there's a sit out there, there's a sprawl. Anything else on that at all?
Yes. You know the settle, instead of the settle, where you smash your hips into counter it, for the guy on the bottom, is there a pendulum there to escape?
I find that the pendulum in this, your arm just tends to get stuck. It's more that you just go to your knees. I just find it's more of a connected bridge. I tend to like, the pendulum for me is a whole different topic. The pendulum for me is about when he's not on my hips and I have an arm on the hip side. So if like anything like this, where I have an arm on the hip side, right, he's not on my hips, and particularly like if I'm rolling something heavyweight, bridging the when I bridge, I'm not really going to move him a lot, right? But I can pendulum, right? So that's kind of a different thing. It's more if my arm, anytime I have an arm hip side, I prefer to pendulum to the bridge. I don't really bridge there anymore. I've started trying pendulum. I just find it's an easier way out, it's less effort. But I don't really feel pendulum's my thing in start. You can use it to get into position quickly. So if he's sitting his hips out over here, and he tends to sit on the floor, yeah, this can be a ball weight. And like, if you look at his head right now, anyone fancy getting this, like, it's going to be hard for me because look at where his head is. So I can pendulum in to change the angle. Now I'm in a sit out, right? So now we're back to the whole model again of sprawl, sit out. So I'm in a sit out. And from here I can start trying to work to bridge him. I've changed the angle on him. But generally I don't use a pendulum in that position. So it's someone else as well.
If I'm in this position and he make pressure on me.
Come out front.
Just sorry for my English because my English is not
It's
very
right,
good.
nice.
If I'm on this position and he make pressure on me,
Yeah.
if I don't have oxygen and I can't sleep, what's happening? I sleep or I die.
Yeah. Yeah, those are your odds.
I sleep.
But you're not. The reality is that very few people are going to die. Like, you're not going to die.
Okay.
And that's the thing that when people say I can't breathe, what they really mean is I just haven't put any practice in breathing. Because if they had, you will always find more air in there. You just will. There's not many things I'm like kind of super adamant about in jiu-jitsu, but I don't think Dean Lister would attack to Josh Barnett if he knew how to go with this. I don't know. I can imagine it's horrific, rolling with someone like Josh Barnett, but I just think you just have to tell yourself, no, I can exhale or I can inhale.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's where you focus. You change the language. This is about changing the language of how you talk to yourself when you feel like you can't breathe. And that voice, and you get that dead feeling in your ribs, and you feel like you can't breathe, and it's like you've not died.
But maybe can I sleep like if I don't have oxygen?
But you do.
You'll go to sleep first, and you'll probably let you go there.
I've never seen anybody pass out in this position.
Okay, I just asked.
And I've had a guy. I've never seen anybody pass out. We've got some big, like super heavyweight guys, and it's awful. Your jaw aches, your back hurts, but it isn't because you can't breathe. And so that's really is taking control of that. That's what I feel like this helps you take control of the internal dialogue on the position. Anything else at all? Anyone else?
Just a quick one. Is there any, when you're on the bottom, helping you breathe. Is there any benefit to putting your legs flat, breathing wise?
Yeah, because you're not, anything where you begin, I mean, anything where you're, even here I'm beginning to compress. Whereas here I'm, I mean, you can just sit, you just relax. So anything where you relax is easy to breathe, but you don't have a way out.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't tried telling me that, but I just felt it was so awful when it was
yeah,
fucking scarf.
yeah,
Not even panic, the legs were coming off. He kept saying flatten them, but
yeah.
it
So-
was
so
horrendous. So.
What I would do is just have a separate breathing. I'd have a separate breathing practice. So go, I would go away, study this stuff. I've got some material out. There's loads of people material out on this, but you basically want to just learn to go through some exercises on this, practice the breathing away from the gym. In fact, we've got a minute. I'll show you the one that so when I went and did